There is different from other law-abiding people that tilts them towards a life of crime. Some experts believe that the science of biology may bring us the hope of some cure for the disease of crime itself.
There's been a biological revolution in terms of how we understand crime, and I think one of the biological research, criminal behavior as a disorder.
The search to understand the roots of criminal behavior has usually focused on the social causes of crime. Poverty and deprivation all play their part. But what the social scientists overlook is the role of the body's biology, especially abnormalities of brain function. This could be the result of accidents or social factors, difficulties at birth, taking drugs, drinking alcohol. Whatever the cause, it results, scientists are convinced, makes the criminal different from the rest of us. New discoveries in the exploration of the brain will fundamentally challenge our concept of the very nature of guilt and punishment. In the light of this new science, we can trace the pathway to crime chosen by two adult offenders. Frank is a career criminal. Tony has spent most of his adult life in jail. Are they both just plain bad, or is there of their abnormal brains?
There has to be something wrong, or else I wouldn't have wasted half my life in prison.
Most of us have broken the law as children. Few make a habit of it, and fewer continue as adult offenders. Studies consistently show only a small handful of children go on to a career of adult crime.
It is true to say that there are a dangerous few, that there are only a tiny fraction of the total population who commit most of the misery. They commit most of the crimes.
Researchers now believe that we can identify the dangers before they ruin their own and others' lives through tests that show even more dramatic that treatment can save children at risk of a criminal career. So who are the dangerous few? Cody was diagnosed at the age of 4 as suffering from attention deficit and conduct disorder. For 20 years, the Satterfield research team has carried out meticulously controlled scientific studies of children like Cody. They reveal a consistent abnormality in the electrical activity of the brain. 150 of the children studied are now adults.
I'm sorry you missed out this time because I just got Connect 4, but I'm glad that you're playing by the rules. That's terrific. Let's try it again. Attention deficit disorder children who also have conduct disorder were followed by us in a long-term follow-up study, and half of them had been arrested for felony crimes by the time they reached 18, actually before they were 18. So the combination of attention deficit and conduct disorder is highly predictive of trouble with the law later on in life.
Lauren was diagnosed with these disorders when she was 4. Her parents were warned that they signaled serious trouble ahead.
Lauren, if untreated, if we didn't intervene in her behavior, if we didn't do a hands-on action with her, she would be probably a 12-year-old runaway who was promiscuous in sex and probably, in jail at some point, before she was 20.
Lauren is now 8. So what is it that puts children at risk of developing adult criminal behavior? They seem to lack normal feelings and emotions. Lauren's symptoms were typical.
Say goodbye. Let's take a close-up of a kiss. Wait. Lauren was different from birth. She never smiled. That was really hard. The child never went through that, stage of smiling and cooing and laughing that maybe 3 or 4 months old do, and she just never did. And she was so different from what I expected a child to be, or compared to her older sister. None of the other children were like this at all.
A disturbing symptom is their attitude to suffering. Cruelty to animals, inflicted without remorse, is one of the clearest indicators of violence in later life.
Cody doesn't seem to care that he's done it. When he killed the dog, it was my mom's dog we were babysitting, and we get to the airport, and he's yelling out the window, "Nanny, I killed your dog, I killed your dog," and he was just he thought that was the greatest. I don't know, he didn't have any remorse at all.
This little boy, from a very young age, showed a lot of particularly disturbing behavior. He was extremely aggressive to peers early on, and he is to siblings now constantly, to the point where his mother has been told to watch him when he's home all of the time when he's with his siblings. I'm concerned that he might hurt his siblings.
Get out of their room, Cody. Cody? Out. Get out. You're not allowed in here. Yes, you are in here. You're not supposed to be in here. You remember why?
Yeah.
With his sisters, he'll just hit them for no reason. And if they do anything, the slightest thing, he gets really upset. They go in his room, he has a tendency to just grab him by the hair, the arm, the leg, and drag him out. Come on. They do raspberries with their tongue, and he didn't like that, and so he just backhanded her, just slapped her right across the face. Brina said and kill one of my daughters out of just anger and not even think twice about it.
Minds to Crime will continue on.
In the Far East, people have long appreciated the need for thoughtfully designed products that make efficient use of limited space. Crosswalk Space Saver, made in America, appreciated around.
Soon, you'll both be taking up less space. Space Saver by Proform.
Minds to Crime continues on Science Frontiers.
At age, Lauren's behavior was leading her into trouble.
There was a time that Lauren took a tile tool to school when she was about 4 years old, and this tile tool, and it could cut the finger in it. I suppose it could slice a finger. She was showing kids this tool, and I guess it scared the school, because I think she had asked a child to go ahead, stick your finger in it.
I was called several times by the school because they were concerned about her level of violence and aggression in the classroom.
Lauren was constantly in trouble. Her mother's attempts to correct her seemed simply to fuel a sense of menace.
I think Lauren was going to kill me in my sleep. As Lauren, she would do whatever her impulses told her. And if I made her mad, I was the one reprimanding her. You know, I was the one who was going to get in trouble for it. And I just used to think, she was a really sad thing for a mother to say.
This is where I grew up, right here, and that's where we stole the car from. This is where I'd leave that apartment and sell drugs, and we'd deal our our marijuana and deal our speed.
Danny's ingrained and infant delinquency was not diagnosed. His mother hadn't heard of attention deficit disorder, and when he started stealing at 3, she thought, boys will be boys.
I said, "What's under your shirt?" And he said, "Oh, it's a secret." And I said, "Well, I have to see the secret." And we lifted his shirt, and he had stolen from his little friend about 6 little cars. And I said, "You can't take these." And he said, "Yes, I can. I had them hidden."
Attention deficit disorder children are different than the ordinary child in that the patterns that they get into of lying and stealing are pervasive. They're not transient. They last for longer than 6 months or a year.
Danny came from a well-off and stable family. He had no need to steal. But for him, stealing and the habit of lying became both casual and compulsive. Mischief was maturing into delinquency.
He was the greatest. And he was very convincing and very good at it. They become quite skilled at lying and the predicaments that they had gotten into and the excuses of why they weren't where they were supposed to be or why they had stolen a car or whatever the situation was. He was very gifted at that.
Studies of children like this have revealed a brain abnormality consistently found in those who go on to a criminal career. Good or bad social circumstances play a part, but this abnormality is central to the potential for crime.
No, he says.
Yeah, don't climb up that way. Don't dig that way.
Although they are hyperactive, these children actually suffer from a low level of arousal. Frontal cortex. Arousal levels can be monitored and measured by the amount of electrical activity in the brain. Scientists have found that one wave pattern, the theta waves, is invariably different in children at risk of criminal behavior. When we are drowsy, the theta waves are slow and large. When we concentrate, the waves move faster and are focused. Paradoxically, the at-risk overactive children show an abnormal degree of waves in the drowsy pattern. One British study by Adrian Raine measured arousal levels in young boys before any had committed an offense.
The critical question, basically, is can those criminals be identified 9 years earlier on the basis of the measures of arousal? And the answer is yes, they can. We find that the criminals have an excess of theta activity here. And theta activity is measures an under-aroused individual. So essentially, the 3 measures predicting to who becomes criminal 9 years later.
What causes low arousal in children? Very often, brain damage results from problems at birth, oxygen deprivation, viral infection, or other environmental accidents can lead to a brain that shows this classic pattern of low arousal. Why does low arousal predispose a child to crime? The answer lies in how the brain functions. The frontal cortex regulates the ability to plan and organize behavior, emotional reactions. In normal people, important messages from the nerves activate the frontal cortex, which analyzes them and then tells the limbic. This area generates our emotions like love, anger, and fear. The limbic system is the seat of our instinctive, irrational, or impulsive behavior. With low arousal, internal communication is more sluggish, so the incoming messages need to be far more sensational than normal to get through to the frontal cortex. This means the cortex is slower to activate the limbic system, which in turn fails to generate normal feelings of fear.
Low arousal indexes lack of fear. For example, one thing that stopped most of us from committing antisocial acts is that we are frightened about the consequences of committing antisocial acts. Probably because we've been punished for doing antisocial things as children, and we remember the consequences of our actions.
I know you can. No more flips. Why? Because I said so.
If she did something of which she was told not to do, if she broke something, there was no guilt or fear. Fear was the biggest thing. She would not be scared of anything.
Discipline meant nothing to Danny. By the age of 10, he was literally fearless and dangerously out of control. He would stay out all night, using and selling drugs, and stealing to buy more.
I started selling the marijuana, and which hooked me onto cocaine, and then hooked me onto crystal meth, speed. And when I was selling that, that's when I got other police officers in other places, hanging out with friends, selling on the streets.
We found no matter what the discipline was or the consequences for his misbehavior, it was never enough. We couldn't punish him enough. He was at that point becoming bigger and stronger than I was anyway, and he could walk out the door. I mean, he knew how to ride the bus system. He could steal money. He could take my jewelry. He could sell it. He could do anything he wanted. There was no stopping him. We were really at a loss for answers.
It may seem contradictory that the overactive child has an underactive brain. But an active frontal cortex is essential to the ability to concentrate. Their low brain arousal means that hyperactive children can't focus their attention. They're constantly on the move.
The primary consequences of not being able to focus attention in school are very, very bright children fall way behind in school. They're unable to do any academic work at the level that they should be able to do it, given their IQs. As they fall further behind, they develop a very low self-esteem and low self-image. They feel that they're wrong or bad very often.
I just couldn't focus, and I just couldn't concentrate and pay attention to any of my work, which is why I acted up. It's why I couldn't focus. That made me angry and made me frustrated, and it made me act up even more.
So this leads into a whole set of negative self-perceptions for the child. And very often they make up for that by doing things, simple, effective, immediate things that make them feel good. But those things very often are not socially acceptable.
When I got into trouble, it made me feel better. I needed to feel like I was a rebel, like I was just getting into more crimes. And even when I got arrested, sometimes I would feel better about that afterwards because I felt like I did misbehave, and I got, some things I got away with, which I felt good about.
At age 10, Danny had a reputation as a troublemaker. Other children feared and avoided him. But there's another reason why low arousal can lead to extreme behavior. Those with low arousal are driven by the need for excitement. This craving for risk and adventure can either fuel a successful career or lead to fulfillment in crime.
Kids with low arousal seek out stimulation to increase their arousal levels back to normal. Now, for some adolescents, joining a gang, burglaring a house, beating somebody up might be their way of getting an arousal jag in life.
Yeah, I found it very exciting. That was the whole reason of doing it. All the crimes that I did, it was just really exciting to me. I liked the action. I liked having to get away from the cops, and I thought I was cool. I thought it was a cool thing to do.
Danny was 15 when he was sent to a juvenile correctional center for 18 months.
We were unaware of what his problem really was, other than just being a bad person, a bad kid. We didn't know what.
These children have been diagnosed as being at risk for criminal behavior. But doesn't singling them out itself doom them to delinquency?
It does seem a little beyond the pale to take a child, say, in 5th grade and go out and start measuring their arousal and say, well, you're in danger of being a future criminal. That doesn't seem right to me.
If you don't label a child, or you can't get him proper treatment.
You ready, bud?
Yeah.
Treatment may indeed be possible. The few studies that have been tried all offer hope that the brain differences that tilt a child to crime can be overcome. Biology need not be destiny. Our brains need not doom us. If we really want to, we can prevent a number of crimes by conquering our children's criminal potential.
Minds to Crime will continue on.
With America's 24-hour email, online reference, news, sports, and entertainment.
I can take Jess to the Smithsonian, browse through magazines.
And we can email your sister in college. Not to mention get the latest NFL scores, update your stock portfolio, and check out those new four-wheel drives.
Cool!
Plus, America Online gives you easy point-and-click access to the internet and the World Wide Web. Call now for your free America Online Startup Kit and 10 free hours to get online.
Call 1-800-637-3339. Call now or send $4.99 plus $3.49 shipping to this address.
We're created in a wondrous array of shapes, sizes, and colors. And how we adorn and decorate ourselves tells the world who we are. An exercise in individuality. Express yourself. Body. Human Beings. Saturday at 10 on TLC. Minds to Crime continues on Science Frontiers.
Cody is undergoing intensive treatment. The goal, to change his behavior. The prize, to save him from his potentially criminal self.
If you help them just check off each day.
Brina Satterfield's method is controversial. She has no fears about using science to diagnose children at risk. The first step in a 2-year process is the parents that their children are damaged by a brain disorder and need help rather than punishment.
Remember that ADD kids do not have a good sense of time. Whether it's a week or a month or 5 minutes, they don't have a very good conceptual, internalized idea of how long that is.
It's hard to not look at him and say, he's just misbehaving. He's doing this on purpose. And realize that he has something wrong with him and not, it's really hard to, because he gets to where he drives you nuts. And it's not his fault. There's something wrong in the brain.
Brina mapped out that there are brain transmitters. And when the transmitter signals don't connect, there's a disorder. Her stealing wasn't her stealing, it was part of this disorder. It made it so much more easier to look at it that way.
The next stage is to teach the parents how to cope with these apparent children from hell.
One of the immediate problems is that parents are very reactive to what their children's behavior is or fails to be, and so they're constantly chastising their children, and a lot of anger develops.
I truly hated my child. I hated Lauren. I mean, my whole life was turned upside down around this child. I mean, here, the guilt a mother has on feeling hatred towards a child, their own child. Brina made me look at this as a handicap. You wouldn't yell at a retarded child. You wouldn't go smack a retarded child. You know, you just can't. And you have to step back and you have to go, they are incapable of controlling their behavior. They are incapable.
You're a star, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm the star.
The other part of the treatment is chemical.
Come here, you need to take your pills.
Ritalin is a brain stimulant. Common sense would say that the last thing a hyperactive child needs is stimulation. But ironically, it's the underactive brain which needs a kickstart to help him concentrate.
And then I give him his medicine, and about a half hour later, he starts to calm down. Cody wouldn't be able to. He gets so excited and stuff, there's no way he could settle down enough for a teacher to teach him. Without the medicines, he's that out of control. With the medication and with everything we've been doing with him, he's calm enough where he can go to school, he gets good grades, and they haven't really noticed too much of a problem.
Jesse, you're on the other team. Okay, I got it though. Cody, I got it.
The studies show that drugs alone are not a magic bullet for delinquency. Satterfield predicts that a child like Cody will need 2 or 3 years of help before he begins to feel and act like other children.
I want to kick out. Good. No, but then, because I don't want to. I don't think I'm basketball is help. I'm going to do something.
The drugs help Cody concentrate on learning, but it will take longer for him to become a more considerate and tender child.
I think you like to throw things, right, when you get mad?
Only sometimes I do that when I get mad.
Did you get mad at that cat when you were throwing wood at the cat? Were you mad at the cat for something?
He didn't do.
Well, why did you throw the wood at the cat and kill a cat?
I don't know why.
You don't know why? I wonder if you were mad about something at that time. Were you mad at somebody else, or?
I wasn't mad at somebody. I don't know why I hit the cat.
A child such as this doesn't have the same set of feelings that you or I would have when we hurt another person. He doesn't have the sense of shock or horror at what that means. And then what happened?
And on the way home, I threw rocks at him.
You threw rocks at him?
Yeah. And after that, my dad called me.
Okay, but did you ever think of saying, Kevin, that's making me really angry and I don't want to be your friend if you're going to treat me that way?
Hey, Jimmy, let me use it, please.
Hopefully, treatment will help him to understand how others feel when he hurts them.
Good behavior in the living room. Top out of 50.
Okay, well, here, take your chips.
Okay.
How many do you get for eating all your breakfast?
3.
3? But you don't get any for staying in bed till 7.
A further layer to Cody's intensive treatment is less sophisticated. The parents are asked to operate a reward system.
Come here. Okay, what did you get for study time?
Everything.
Do you think you did good?
3.
3? You know what?
What?
I think you did so good. I think you did super good. I give you 5.
Wow.
That was the best study time you've ever had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little plastic chips are given to the child for specific good behavior. The child can then cash in these chips for special incentives such as the pleasure of watching television or playing with a friend. It is juvenile capitalism where the child sells his behavior instead of his labor, and the whole family profits.
You'd be surprised what a little piece of plastic does. He really is motivated to earn those. Otherwise, he doesn't get to do anything. And so he works really hard trying to get them. It's bribery, but it works.
Lauren's family has completed 3 years of the Satterfield treatment. She still needs stimulants to help her concentrate, but the combined therapies have changed her behavior, and Francine is no longer afraid of her daughter.
Thank God I don't have that fear anymore. Lauren's not that child anymore. She has guilt now. She has a little fear. She has a conscience. She feels sensitive towards other people's pain. She's the first one over to a child who's hurt themselves in school. This is not the child that was 5 years ago who couldn't care less about anybody or anything.
Minds to Crime will continue on Science Frontiers.
Sunday, Washington feels the sting of defeat. A brutal winter forges a new force, and the world joins the fight for freedom. The Revolutionary War, Sunday night at 9 on TLC.
Explain the rating system for municipal bonds.
Well, they're rated either good or bad.
When life calls for deeper answers, enter CompuServe, the online service with deeper content. Call for free software.
Now discover Australia from only $1,695, including round-trip air on Qantas, hotel and car rental. You'll fly to sophisticated Melbourne. Then enjoy Australia's ultimate drive, the Great Ocean Road. Fly on to Queensland to experience the Great Barrier Reef, unspoiled rainforests and beaches. Call 1-800-KOALA-23 for details on this and other Qantas collection packages. 1-800-KOALA-23. Call now and get 3 extra nights in Sydney free.
Does it feel like things are too much to handle? Like your life is just a lot of pain? Call the Boys Town National Hotline. They've helped hundreds of thousands of kids and parents. They know what to do to help you. Call toll-free, 1-800-448-3000.
Go back in time for a cold brew as experts recreate Pharaoh's beer. Then find the relationship between the pyramids and the cosmos. Reach the soul of Egypt on Ancient Journeys. Monday, beginning at 9 on TLC.
Minds to Crime continues on Science Frontiers.
A year in a juvenile detention center may cost more than $26,000. A life of crime can cost the taxpayer more than $1.5 million. Yet a year's treatment in an intervention program costs only about $3,000.
The ethical dilemma is this. As a parent, what do you do? Do you risk putting your child into these intervention programs and risk labeling your child as a future violent offender, even though your child has committed no violent crimes right now? That's one side of the scenario. The other side is if you ignore that possibility and don't put your child into intervention programs, there's an 80% chance that he will become a violent criminal offender. And he'll not only destroy his own life, he'll destroy your life, the lives of his brothers and sisters, and more importantly, the lives of innocent victims of his violent crimes.
Danny is too old for the Satterfield treatment, but is it too late to correct the biology that makes him an offender? After his release from detention, Danny's parents, in desperation, tried a new abnormal brain patterns. It's called biofeedback.
My behavior was so bad in the past that we didn't think that we could change it, and we didn't think there was anything I can change it. And when I started, I mean, we just tried it out basically just to see if it would help at all.
The first stage was to clinically assess whether or not Danny had classic abnormal brain patterns.
The evaluation of EEG showed us a predominant theta activity. That means low arousal, and low arousal is bound to conduct disorder. He had incredible conduct disorder, such as using drugs and selling drugs, stealing cars, threatening the family members, sometimes even becoming violent in the family.
The scientific evidence shows that under the right conditions, we can retrain our own brains to change our own arousal levels.
And I'd like you now to look in front of you and focus on Pac-Man. Be as relaxed as you can be. That's very good. Just be very
Biofeedback sounds like fringe science. It involves, in this case, a simple video game. The difference is that it's the patient's own brain waves, not his hands, that control how well the game is played.
If you focus more, the Pac-Man will be eating more of the pellets. When you get unfocused, you can see that he slows down and he stops eating the pellets less. So it is a really good game because it really keeps your attention focused. And as you're concentrating on him, that is making your brain concentrate.
The more sessions you have done, the faster the results will be. So if you do 3 times a week, in about a year, you have a complete and permanent change in your brain activity.
Danny's brain waves have changed, and so has his fearless, selfish quest for sensation.
Now, his brain waves are in a normal range. So it's a normalization of his electrical brain activity that leads to, of course, a normal behavior.
And within 3 weeks, a total miracle had happened. He went from first of all, from being not interested in school to becoming interested, and from making Fs to bringing home A's, perfect scores on tests and reports.
Biofeedback is a miracle to me. It's just the most amazing thing. For me, as long as I stay focused and I stay off drugs and I'm staying clean and sober, then those 30 sessions are going to stay with me for a long time, and so far it's worked. My concentration is already up. It's almost like taking a pill that cures you for the rest of your life.
There has been no systematic assessment of biofeedback. Even so, the Texas Correctional Center, hardly soft on crime or vague about the causes of it, is giving the system a trial, and provisional results are encouraging for delinquent young men like Danny. But treatment is the exception. Many children go on undiagnosed.
Not many children are able to get appropriate treatment. Many children go on without treatment to failure in school, failure with peers and in society, and usually they become the outcasts, and some of them become predatory and attack other people physically. Others just drop out from society, and they drop out from school, and they don't have very useful lives.
And it's among those, the persistent criminals whose lives have been wasted in jail, that we find more evidence of the link between brain abnormalities and crime. Could earlier treatment have helped them escape the prison of their criminal minds?
Minds to Crime will continue on Science Frontiers.
In the Far East, people have long appreciated the need for thoughtfully designed products that make efficient use of limited space. Crosswalk Space Saver, made in America, appreciated around the world.
Soon, you'll both be taking up less space. Space Saver by Proform.
The men and the machines, the technology and the atrocities, the power and the horror of 100 years of war. The complete history of 20th century conflict, the century of warfare, now available exclusively from Time Life Video. Never before has the entire history of modern conflict been brought together in one comprehensive series. You'll see action you've never seen before and that you can't get in any store. So call now to get Air War for only $4.99. The Century of Warfare, exclusively from Time Life. It's 100 years of combat footage from both sides. Scenes that you can't get in any store. So call now before it's too late.
To order your Century of Warfare Air War video, call 1-800-637-3339. Call now or send $4.99 plus $3.49 shipping to this address.
For 50 years, and help millions help themselves. No agency of its kind has done more for more people more efficiently than CARE. It's time to care again.
We're created in a wondrous array of shapes, sizes, and colors, and how we adorn ourselves says who we are. An exercise in individuality. Body Styles on Human Beings, Saturday at 10 on TLC.
Sunday, Washington feels the sting of defeat. A brutal winter forges a new force, and the world joins the fight for freedom. The Revolutionary War, Sunday night at 9 on TLC.
I want to know about meeting that special someone.
Sorry, can't help you there.
A diet I can live with.
No way, not in this commercial.
I want to know more about Rogaine.
Rogaine with minoxidil?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay. Just call this number now for a free information kit on Rogaine topical solution. It could help answer your questions because it's filled with all kinds of facts about Rogaine. And because you need a prescription to get Rogaine, we'll send you a list of local doctors and special money-saving offers to help you decide if Rogaine is right for you.
But I want to know right now.
We'll mail it to you today. So what are you waiting for? Call now for your free information kit. Call 1-800-356-8989.
Minds to Crime continues on Science Frontiers.
Britain's prisons house more than 50,000 inmates. How many of them are incapable of controlling their actions? Hundreds of studies have measured the brain arousal levels of persistent offenders, and the clinical tests, both in the U.S. and abroad, all tell the same story.
Years, we've been finding that criminals or antisocial individuals tend to evidence low arousal, low physiological arousal.
Low arousal means the intelligent frontal areas of the cortex are not instructing the limbic system to generate the appropriate responses a normal person feels.
A person with high arousal is liable to panic, while an individual with very low arousal will simply deal with the situation rationally. And so this maybe gives you a clinical idea of why low arousal may be useful for a criminal and why it may predispose an individual to become a criminal.
It's very good. Just be very, very relaxed.
The recidivist criminal, or persistent offender, suffers from the same brain abnormality that is seen in Danny. Tony is a classic repeat offender. He has spent most of his adult life in prison. As with Danny, his upbringing doesn't explain why he chose a life of crime.
My family upbringing was very good, actually. I came from a very loving and caring home. I have no excuses.
Tony was born into a morally upright, lower middle-class family. Like Danny's parents, Tony's father can't explain what went wrong.
The upbringing we gave him, we didn't teach him to steal, or he didn't have to steal. He got what he wanted, more or less, from us that we could give him. I don't really know why he went off the rails, no idea.
Is there a biological answer to the puzzle of Tony's offending? How much of Danny's pattern does he fit? As a child, Tony's pattern of behavior was similar to Danny's. He had all deficit disorder and hyperactivity.
When you look back now, it might have been hyperactive. I was always an active. I was always doing something. I had to be active. I could get distracted very, very easily, especially from the boring things in life. So I can't sit still.
Come on, James, keep in with it.
This is Frank, a career villain. He served 15 years for robbing an armored truck. His pathway to crime is perhaps more understandable. Unlike Philip, he grew up in a distressed environment. Crime, to some in the East End of London, was a way of life. Frank started to steal in a small way when he was only a child.
I used to feed out of Stratford Market. I used to feed boxes of cabbages and cauliflowers, carrots, onions, thingy, but not to sell. Just take them in the street and give them, let the people in the street have them.
Frank enjoyed the frenzy and action of boxing, but so do a lot of East End children, and they don't grow up to become criminals. Did Frank box because an underactive brain prevented him from concentrating at school?
When I'd done the bullion robbery, it was the thrill of it. I would say more so than the money.
So they tell us more about nouns. We make writing more interesting.
Frank is only now becoming literate. He found reading and writing impossible as a child. Over 100 studies show that career criminals have a low verbal IQ. Was Frank's disadvantage another bias of the brain towards crime?
Far better idea of what the sentence is about.
There's another clue locked in the depths of the brain. When scientists compared the brains of non-criminals with they found that the language side was not functioning as well.
We found the left hemisphere to be much poorer in terms of processing verbal material. That processing verbal material is very important in terms of learning social rules.
A connection between the two hemispheres of the brain is essential if the left side is to maintain control over the impulsive and emotional right side of the brain.
An internal moral code is critically important in the development of a conscience. And effectively, if you don't have that internal regulation of verbal processes, then one may be less able to generate that internal verbal code which guides and regulates your social behavior.
But there is still more to the new discoveries that link the brain to criminal behavior. There may be a fault in the very structure of the brain of the persistent offender. 2,000 such criminals underwent a battery of neurological tests.
The recidivists we've studied over the years, the probability is probably over 90% that he has an abnormality of his brain.
Through neurological tests, brain functions can be mapped. The gray area indicates low activity. The normal brain is on the left, and this is the brain of the career criminal. The frontal cortex of the repeat offender is not functioning properly. The brain is not controlling the instinctive and impulsive limbic area.
We have urges, a gas pedal go system, and we have a braking system to put the brakes on, the inhibition. And what most of these recidivists appear to lack is the braking system. So when that part of the brain is dysfunctional, or damaged in some cases, those brakes are gone, and the individual is a victim of their urges and will continue to commit crimes, often silly crimes, and of no real substance in terms of gain for them.
Tony and Frank fit the criminal brain pattern revealed by new research. The inevitable accidents of youth can compromise the brain. This is yet another weight on the scales of disadvantage. Add this to social or economic problems, and the balance can tilt towards criminal behavior.
You need a combination of factors to become a criminal. It's a little like a poker game. It doesn't help to have a 10, Jack, Queen, King. You also need the ace. And every one of those is equally important, because if you don't have one, you're not going to have the flush, and you won't have the criminal behavior, as an analogy.
Get it out of ya! Come on!
Are they both the victims of their brains, the prisoners of their biology? Are they guilty?
One could argue that they are victims of their brain dysfunction and don't have the same control that a normal person does.
But if you say that the psychologists are saying that if it's a brain disorder, you're not guilty, I'd love to go along on that one. But that's the easy way out. I mean, I know what is right and what is wrong. The fact that I act before I think, is that an excuse? I'd love to think it was. I don't think it'll be accepted.
If we were to diagnose some career criminals as suffering from a disorder, doesn't this give a carte blanche towards excusing such behavior? No, absolutely not. Even though they may be suffering from a disorder, we still need to institutionalize them. We need to protect society.
Treatment in prison is virtually unknown. But what if Frank received the same help that Cody, Lauren, and Danny had? Could he have avoided a lifetime of failure and disappointment?
I think if I'd have been good at anything, if I could train properly, I think that would have been my life. If I'd have been able to box, I don't think I'd have took to crime. I think it's because I was a failure, then I took the crime. I was a failure at crime and all.
And what about Tony? Would we recognize the danger signs in another young Tony today?
When I look back now, my inability to sit still or concentration could be, or may be, one of the reasons I'm sat here now. That, perhaps, but we're looking now and I'm 50 years of age, it's a bit late. We just want to see where the future goes from here.
Come on, mate.
Charlotte, just hold him.
Right, ready?
He hasn't, he's just letting go.
That's enough.
Genuinely believes that this is it. But I said that last time, and totally convinced myself last time that the last time was enough.
You've got a funny face all the time.
The temptations of freedom are a long way off. Tony still has 4 years of his sentence to serve.
Well, translated?
Oh, that's what I think. It's so sad. He's such a nice... I know he's my brother, and perhaps I'm a bit biased, but then he's such a nice guy to have wasted his life like this. It really is so sad.
I'm not used to babies.
Could what we know today have salvaged that wasted life and spared us all the misery and expense of Tony's criminality? Recognizing the biological roots of crime seems to have worked for today's children, breaking the chains that bound them to a seemingly inevitable delinquent career. Lauren is growing up to be a normal little girl in a family that recognized that she was ill and needed help.
And what Brina taught me is that I could hate and love the child. And I mean, she really was a beautiful child with an ugly disease.
He too is showing signs that his treatment is beginning to work.
Cody is very intelligent for his age, and since we've been working with him, I know that he's not going to go to prison. He's going to go to college, become a doctor, a lawyer.
Less than 1/1000th of the cost of criminal justice has been spent on investigating new treatment methods, like raising arousal levels with adult criminals. But at least we now know that biology need not set our destinies unless we let it.
We didn't really understand it, but we just saw the results of it, which were astonishing, amazing. I don't know if he would have lived without it. That's how strongly I feel about it. And I was so skeptical in the beginning that, thank God, I took a chance, and he did it. I would have never known.
Danny can now look forward to the rest of his life. But can the same clinical understanding of the brain that saved him be applied to the violent offender?
Minds to Crime will continue on Science Frontiers.
I used to think it would take me years to learn the techniques of master woodworkers, until I got my hands on The Art of Woodworking from Time Life Books. These spiral-bound volumes bring you a lifetime of woodworking wisdom with safe, practical, step-by-step advice from expert woodworkers, from how to select and finish wood to the secrets of perfect joinery and how to build dozens of time-saving jigs.
Call this toll-free number, specially priced at your credit card, and receive shop secrets from master craftsmen. Future woodworking volumes will arrive once about every month at the regular price of $19.99. Keep only those you want. Cancel anytime. Keep the free video no matter what.
The Art of Woodworking gives you the confidence to tackle any project and the how-to advice to complete it with results you'll be proud of.
Call 1-800-706-5577 to order cabinet making, now specially priced at just $9.99. Use your credit card and get a free Shop Secrets video. Call now.
Frogman Team Bravo, proceed to dive point. Check your gear. Adjust for time.
Summer day. They're out here keeping that peace. The Navy, out here today, safeguarding your tomorrow.
Go back in as experts recreate Pharaoh's beer. Then find the relationship between the pyramids and the cosmos. Reach the soul of Egypt on Ancient Journeys. Monday, beginning at 9 on TLC.
To find out what's on the Learning Channel and the Discovery Channel, all you need is one guide. Discovery Channel programming highlights and comprehensive descriptions of programs on both the Learning Channel and the Discovery Channel. Plus easy-to-use grids that help plans. Call 1-800-34 for a full-year subscription to Discovery Channel monthly at the special charter rate of $9.97. 2 great channels, 1 great guide. Call now.
Minds to Crime continues on Science Frontiers.
The search for the roots of crime has been left to the social scientists. Poverty, neglect, abuse, and poor education have all been linked to crime, but that doesn't explain why most poor people are not criminals, or why all the products of broken homes don't become outlaws. Today, new evidence from the science of biology may offer some of the answers. It may also deliver some of the solutions to a problem sociology has failed to diagnose or cure.
We assume in the law that everybody is born with enough sense to control their own behavior. On the other hand, we should realize that there are some people who are so impaired or so different in the way they control their own behavior that to hold them criminally responsible would be as though we were holding a 3-year-old child responsible for murder and we're deciding to inflict the death penalty on a 3-year-old child. The question is, where is the line to be drawn? And the biological state of an individual's brain is the really critical determiner.
It has long been understood that brain damage can result in extreme and violent behavior. Ted Bledsoe developed a disorder known as episodic dyscontrol. Suddenly and without reason, he would lash out in the course of a seizure. It was only by good fortune that he avoided actually killing anyone.
I was a precocious child in the sense that I was intelligent, highly intelligent, I think, and had a good imagination. I was energetic, and I did get into childhood trouble, childhood fights. I won a few, I lost a few, but I was not a violent person. I did not destroy things.
Ted was an excellent student who specialized in medicine. He became a radiologist and set up his own practice in Washington, D.C. The practice prospered, but Ted was troubled by increasingly severe neurological problems.
It was getting to the point where if I became annoyed by anything, instead of dealing with annoyance, very quickly I was dealing with rage. And that rage expressed itself in violence.
The brain is a complex and multi-layered structure. The limbic system lies at its center. All of our innate primitive emotions of love, hate, and anger are generated here. These emotions are cortex. This is the thinking, socialized part of the brain. The cortex keeps us from acting on irrational and inappropriate impulses generated in the limbic system.
The rage attack is something that the individual cannot inhibit. The pressure cooker explodes and overrides all the inhibitory controls the individual might have at hand.
Episodic dyscontrol, or rage attack, is an electrical storm that begins deep within the brain. The hurricane spreads throughout the limbic system and cannot be held in check by the cortex. In Ted's case, the disorder was probably the result of a tumor, but despite surgery to remove it, the rages continued.
There were episodes of violence against people which were particularly painful. One was against my former wife, and I slapped her, and she slapped me back. And I turned on her, and she was quite clear that I was enraged and that I was going to do her harm. Well, she picked up the phone and called the police, which enraged me even further. And I stalked her into the living room where I knocked her down, and I got on top of her, and I beat her with my fists. And I could have beaten her to death. Had I a weapon in my hands, I could have easily killed her. And all of a sudden, it was all over. And here I was with my wife lying on the floor, and I astraddle of her, panting because of the physical exertion of hitting her so many times.
Rage attacks tend to run their course, much like an epileptic fit. Once it's released, behavior pattern, it goes through its course, and it ends when it ends. And it could end in 15 seconds or 30 minutes or maybe 2 hours. And afterwards, the individual is exhausted and had no intentionality to rage out at someone, physically strike someone, or do what they did.
Something had changed, and I could not control the urge to destroy. The annoyance went from, just, oh, get away from me, leave me alone. It went from that immediately into, I want to kill you. Now, normally there are a number of stages between I'm annoyed at you and I want to kill you. But with me then, in the early 80s, those middle stages were gone, and I went from annoyance to I want to kill you immediately, just like that. And I had no control over it.
The cure for Ted's rage attacks lies in an anticonvulsant drug that suppresses the storm.
I knew that I was back. I knew that I had returned. I knew that the nightmare was over. I knew that it was going to be all right. I can't describe the feeling. It's like waking up from your worst nightmare and realizing that it was just a dream.
Ted's problem was simple. The disorder had been diagnosed. With Rusty Workman, it was a different story. He was born with a different brain disorder.
Both think that at this point that they were killed with a knife.
71-year-old Arthur Drake and his 63-year-old wife were found dead with their throats slashed Saturday night in Carlton's Food Center. Blood was spattered on the cabinets near the soda fountains at the back of the store where Arthur Drake's body was discovered. Later, the murder weapon, a razor-sharp fish filleting knife, was found on the roadside. This man, Rusty Workman, has confessed to the double murders.
The vast majority of crimes of violence that are committed, at least in this country, are impulsive in nature. And that people who bring an impulsive personality, an impulsive style to their general daily life functioning are the ones who most often commit acts of violent crime.
The job of the cortex is to harness and rein in the limbic system. The impulses run out of control.
Workman stated that he went directly to the man and cut his throat.
It wasn't intentional. I didn't go in that store to hurt anyone, or to do anyone, or to rob anything. I only went in that store for a cup and a beer.
Workman stated that he came around behind the counter, stabbed the woman, and then cut her throat.
The brain, unlike an automobile, doesn't spend most of its energy moving. It spends most of its energy stopping from going places it oughtn't to go. And so a brain that is generally under-aroused, and particularly under-aroused in those areas that impose self-control, simply doesn't put the brakes on enough.
Tell me about the short temper.
I've always had it, ever since I was little. Most of the time, that's what got me in trouble, or the reason I tore something up, because I never had any patience.
An early indicator of trouble within the frontal cortex is attention deficit disorder, ADD, or hyperactivity. This can be the result of brain damage occurring at birth. Rusty was the firstborn. His family failed to realize how much he desperately needed help.
When he was born, he didn't breathe properly. They had to breathe for him for at least a minute before he breathed on his own. The doctors later said that that could have caused some slight brain damage to cause the hyperactivity or the attention deficit syndrome.
His history, even in the early school years, was a history of not only not paying attention in class, but of committing impulsive acts which broke the rules and which were difficult to restrain him from.
In ADD children, a failure to concentrate often goes hand in hand with impulsiveness. The two symptoms result in disciplinary problems and poor performance. A self-reinforcing downward spiral of frustration, failure, and fury develops. Aggression becomes bullying, and bullying can set the pattern for a lifetime of violence. One well-accepted treatment for ADD is Ritalin. This medication is a stimulant which galvanizes the frontal cortex to govern the limbic impulses. Only when a child is in control of his brain can he begin to learn to master his more impulsive instincts.
He also was administered stimulant medications for a while to good effect. The regrettable thing was that someone who was misguided advised the parents that they should not administer stimulant medications because, in principle, medications shouldn't be given to children. And as a consequence of that, medications, which then led step by step to a pattern of misbehaviors later on that turned out to be quite regrettable.
One time I had a principal, he used to harass me a lot. Thinking I had pinned him to the wall with his desk, had pushed his desk and hit him all the way to the wall and told him if he ever done it, I'd break his neck.
ADD children and adults very often seem to find some way to medicate themselves. For example, they consume tobacco in various forms more often than other children and adults. And nicotine has a well-known stimulant effect, which in this particular instance is beneficial in the sense that it reduces inattention and impulsivity.
While stimulants help those with ADD, depressant drugs have the opposite effect. It becomes even more neglectful of its responsibilities, and the limbic system runs rampant.
Alcohol is a surprisingly devilish drug. Initially, seems to be a stimulant. The trouble with it is, it has its really more famous effect of depressing the central nervous system, reducing brain arousal, and generally further eroding such an individual's impulse control. So the devilment of it is that it comes across in its initial first aftermath of consuming it as a stimulant. And then it turns around like a snake and bites the individual with this de-arousal, which takes the brakes even further off and makes them even more deficient in self-control.
After the first time I got drunk, it got to the point where I liked it so much. And when I got drunk, you felt like you just couldn't be hurt, you couldn't be stopped. As a teenager, I drank every day.
Rusty had never received proper treatment for his ADD. Drinking depressed his control systems even further. One night, his impulsive actions ended in tragedy.
What do you remember in the convenience store?
Basically, it's so hard to explain. It's just, by that time, you know, it was like the point where you get so drunk, you're in and out. You're not completely passed out, but your mind's not resting on what's going on. And yelling, a scream. I heard the first scream. After that, I can't explain it. I know. It's just like something snapped. No apologies and no sorries could ever how bad I feel or just how sorry I am for what I did.
The law has to be sure that a criminal knows the difference between right and wrong. The criminal does know the difference, but the jury in Rusty's case accepted that brain dysfunction could have and was merciful.
You have unanimously recommended that the defendant, Russell Workman, be sentenced to life.
So Rusty escaped death row. The tragedy is that Rusty could have, and Janet and Arthur could have escaped with their lives if only Rusty had been properly diagnosed, treated with medication and therapy available today.
Minds to Crime will continue on Science Frontiers.
Sunday, Washington feels the sting of defeat. A brutal winter forges a new force, and the world joins the fight for freedom. The Revolutionary War, Sunday night at 9 on TLC.
Land Rover Discoveries frequently come home slightly more soiled than ordinary cars. But they still get washed exactly the same way, with soap and water.
If you take care of it, it'll take care of you. Your back should be no exception. Orthopedic ever for the back support. Only Sealy has a patented sensory arm that senses and cushions your movement, then responds to your weight with increasing support, correct support. In the foundation, only patented steel beams, not wood. Help take care of yourself with Posturepedic support.
How do you amaze an amazing mouth? Well, why not start with Long John Silver's Flaky Fish? The batter dip twist no mouth can resist. Pick up our crunchy golden shrimp or tender all-white chicken. Famous batter dip fish, chicken, and shrimp. 3 delicious ways to amaze your mouth, only in Long John Silver's. Oh, yes. It's the amazing 25-cent shrimp sale. Golden batter dip shrimp, now just $1 each, no limit.
Where will the next great movie come from?
You know what the charm of that is? You never know.
When life calls for deeper answers, enter CompuServe, the online service with deeper content. Call for free software.
Go back in time for a cold brew as experts recreate Pharaoh's beer. Then find the relationship between the pyramids and the cosmos. Reach the soul of Egypt on Ancient Journeys. Monday, beginning at 9 on TLC.
No, I've never called a psychic. I have, but they had no clue.
Totally clueless. I don't think a psychic can help me.
Can psychics really get the answers you're seeking? I'm Nadine Lewis, and today we're going to find out. We found people who had never spoken with a psychic and others who said they were all wrong. So we offered them the psychic solution. A free psychic reading?
You mean the call is free, too? All right, now we'll see if the psychic is for real.
Real psychics with real answers. That's what people want, and that's why the Psychic Solution offers a free sample psychic reading. How'd it go? I couldn't believe how much she knew. I feel like I've got a great new friend. All I can say is wow.
She knew I was up for a new job.
And she said it's looking good.
We're calling again. This psychic is for real. I'm keeping this number. Oh, I couldn't believe it.
She had answers, real answers.
Everybody should call for the free reading.
The proof is only a phone call away, so call for your free sample reading by real psychics and get the answers you seek today.
Call 1-800-516-7273.
I can't wait to call again.
Minds to Crime continues on Science Frontiers.
Modern brain imaging techniques like PET scans give researchers a completely new picture of which parts of the brain are working and which are not. For the first time, we can see how the brains of impulsive killers like Rusty are different. The subject has to perform a task that requires activity from several regions of the brain. The scan shows the scientist which areas are functioning normally.
The challenge task we used in this study is a task called the continuous performance task. You look at a computer screen, you see numbers flashing from 0 to 9 on the screen. You press a response button every time you see the figure 0. You do this for 32 minutes. It requires sustained attention. We've always known that it's the prefrontal region of the brain that's involved in sustaining attention. What the normal control is showing to the continuous performance task is widespread prefrontal activation. This is the prefrontal cortex, and this area here is the medial prefrontal cortex. That's what we expect from this task. Compare this scan of the normal individual to this scan of a murderer. This is somebody who was a single murderer. They only killed one person, and it was an impulsive one-off murder. The striking thing about this scan, and the exciting thing, I think, is that there's a distinct lack of prefrontal activation within this impulsive murder. To our theory, that's exactly
The impulsive prefrontal will every
ADD children, on the one hand, rather commonly than non-ADD children do. They have a risk for disinhibited, impulsive, and rule-breaking behavior, even murder in the long run. I'm the risk of being the type of individual same biological predisposition towards needing arousal and being able to arouse others to good. ADD children